I need to tell you about the day I discovered my entire marriage was built on lies, and how I didn't make a single emotional decision after that. Looking back now, I should have trusted my gut sooner. But hindsight's always perfect, isn't it? My name is Sarah. I'm a corporate litigation attorney. I work in a field where attention to detail isn't just important, it's literally your job. You spend 8 hours a day examining documents, catching inconsistencies, building airtight cases based on tiny details that other people miss. You'd think that would have made me a better wife. Turns out, it just made me better at catching lies. I married Michael 8 years ago. We met in law school, bonded over case studies, and genuinely thought we understood each other on a professional and personal level. He became a criminal defense attorney at a firm downtown. I stayed in commercial litigation at a mid-sized firm. Both of us making decent money. Both of us working long hours. It seemed like the perfect setup, two professionals who got each other's workload, each other's stress, each other's ambitions. We'd been married for 2 years when things started feeling off. It's hard to explain because there wasn't one moment where I thought something's seriously wrong. It was more like 1,000 tiny moments that didn't add up. He started staying late more often. New cologne appeared in the bathroom, a brand I'd never bought, definitely not the one I'd given him for his birthday. His phone would light up during dinner, and he'd immediately turn it face down without checking it. He became defensive about things that shouldn't have been defensive. When I asked about a work dinner, he got irritated. When I suggested we take a vacation, he said he was too busy. When I touched him, sometimes he'd flinch. Looking back, every single red flag was waving right in my face. I just ignored them because I didn't want to believe what they meant. I was stupid. Or maybe just scared of the answer. By spring, I couldn't ignore it anymore. He was gone 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Client meetings, he'd say. Emergency depositions on a case. He'd leave early, come home late, and look exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with work. There was a lightness to him on those nights, like he'd gotten something he needed. When I suggested we go to couples therapy, he shut down the conversation immediately and said I was being paranoid. When I asked about his work schedule, he got irritated and said I was suffocating him. The man who used to tell me everything had become a stranger sharing my bedroom, occasionally sleeping in the guest room when he came home, too late to want to disturb me. One Tuesday afternoon in spring, everything changed. I'll remember that day forever. I was at my office working through discovery documents for a case, literally just doing my job, reviewing materials that had been delivered by opposing counsel in a routine commercial dispute. My eye caught something odd in the timestamp of an email metadata. Some of these emails were forwarded from Michael's firm server. I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't investigating my husband. I was just noticing that certain dates didn't match up with the timeline opposing counsel had provided. My stomach went cold. My hands actually shook a little when I realized what I was looking at. I pulled up his firm's employee directory from memory. I'd visited the office enough times to remember the website and internal structure. I found the case file that was listed in the email metadata. Nothing remarkable about it at first glance. But then I noticed something that made my breath catch. Michael had been listed as lead counsel on a deposition, and the paralegal assigned to assist him was someone named Nicole. I remembered Nicole. She'd been at a firm event about a year ago. Young. Maybe 26 or 27. Pretty in that effortless way that doesn't require trying. Michael had introduced her to me as a promising new staff member who's really sharp with contracts. At the time, I'd actually complimented her work on one of his cases. She'd seemed nervous during the introduction, eager to please, probably intimidated by the senior partner's wife. Now I was wondering if she'd been eager to please him in other ways. I needed to see those emails. And I knew exactly how to access them legally. Here's where my legal training became really useful and really dangerous to Michael. As a senior associate managing discovery processes at my firm, I had legitimate access to archived work emails through my firm's extensive legal databases. It was all official. It was all authorized. It was all completely defensible. It was just a matter of pulling the right strings and making the right requests. It took me about 40 minutes to access Michael's firm's archived communications. The law is very clear about discovery. It's not snooping if you have professional authorization. And I did. When you're a lawyer with proper access credentials to discovery systems, pulling archived emails isn't illegal. It's just thorough. It's just doing your job. What I found in those emails made me want to throw up. I actually had to leave my desk and go to the bathroom. 47 emails. Over 14 months. Between Michael and Nicole. And they were not about work. They were never about work. Can't wait to see you Thursday. You make work actually worth it now. Michael. My place or the hotel? Nicole. You're the only thing that makes sense to me right now. Michael. I'm going crazy waiting for Friday. Nicole. The emails weren't explicit in a sexual way, but they didn't need to be. The meaning was crystal clear. And they were dated. Every single one of them was dated and time-stamped. 14 months of lying directly to my face. 14 months of coming home to me while carrying on this relationship. I went completely numb. Not angry. Not yet. Just nothing. I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart, like I was reading a case file about a stranger's failed marriage instead of my own. I spent the next 2 hours doing what I do best, methodically gathering evidence like I was building a case for trial. I pulled his work calendar from his firm's shared server, another completely legitimate access. Then I compared every calendar entry to our joint credit card statements. The pattern became obvious once I knew what I was looking for. Every single hotel charge corresponded with a day his calendar showed client meetings. But here's the thing about hotel chains, they don't charge twice on the same day. They charge once per stay. And Michael had charged hotels 23 times in the last 6 months alone. 23 separate overnight stays. The amounts averaged about $170 per night. Always the same hotel chain. Always the same location, 2 miles from his office. Always on a Thursday or Friday evening. I pulled up the complete financial records for the entire affair. Across 14 months, around $18,000 spent on hotel rooms. Another $4,000 on restaurants, mostly Italian place near his office. $2,000 on jewelry I'd never received. $3,000 on random shopping, likely gifts. $27,000 of our money, spent sneaking around with someone he supervised and mentored. I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't throwing things or calling him or falling apart. I was doing what I always do when facing a crisis, making a list. By 4 p.m., I had printed everything. Every email. Every hotel charge with date and amount. Every restaurant receipt. Every jewelry purchase. Every calendar date. I had documentation that would hold up in any court in America. I had proof that would destroy him professionally. I had evidence that proved he wasn't just cheating, he was violating every ethical code his law license required him to follow. That's when I realized something crucial. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was about professional misconduct on a scale that could end his career. What Michael had done went far beyond sleeping with someone at his firm. He had violated state bar association rules by maintaining a romantic relationship with someone who reported directly to him on active cases. He had created a conflict of interest. He had created liability for his entire firm. He had compromised professional integrity in multiple ways. He had used his position of authority over Nicole to leverage the relationship. And he thought he'd gotten away with it because I was too heartbroken to notice. Or too trusting. Or too naive. I called my best friend, Rebecca. She met me at a coffee shop 20 minutes later and took one look at my face, and she knew everything had changed forever. I showed her the emails first. She read through the first few, her eyes getting wider with each one. Then I showed her the hotel charges. Then the calendar entries. Then the financial spreadsheet I'd created showing 14 months of documented lies. She read through everything in complete silence, then looked at me and asked, "What are you going to do?" That was the moment I chose strategy over emotion. "I'm going to do exactly what I'm trained to do," I told her. "I'm going to document everything officially. I'm going to file for divorce. And I'm going to report his professional violations to the State Bar Association." She stared at me like I'd said something shocking. "Sarah, he's going to lose his job." "I know," I said quietly. "That's the point. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure you want to go that far?" I was absolutely certain. Rebecca helped me that night. We moved about $175,000 from our joint savings into an account in my name alone. It wasn't taking anything that wasn't rightfully mine. We'd contributed equally to our marriage, and this was my financial security. But I needed to protect my future. Then I contacted a family law attorney that evening and started the divorce proceedings formally. I gave her copies of everything. The emails, the charges, the calendar evidence, the spreadsheet. I explained that I wasn't interested in negotiating a settlement. I wanted everything documented, filed officially, and I wanted to move forward immediately. Then I did something that nobody could ever accuse me of doing emotionally or impulsively. I filed a formal complaint with the State Bar Association. It was professional. It was documented. It was airtight and specific. I included certified copies of all the emails, the financial records, the calendar evidence, and a detailed explanation of exactly which Bar Association rules Michael's conduct violated. I wasn't framing this as a betrayed wife looking for revenge. I was framing it as a fellow attorney reporting documented professional misconduct. I had standing to file. I had documentation to back up every claim. And I had zero guilt about doing it. 6 days later, I came home from work and asked Michael to sit down. He'd been texting me all day trying to arrange dinner, trying to act normal, trying to pretend nothing was wrong. I hadn't responded to any of his messages. We hadn't spoken in 4 days. When he walked through the door that evening, I was sitting on the couch with everything printed and organized in a folder. He knew immediately that something was catastrophically wrong. His face went pale before I'd even said anything. "We need to talk," I said. Very calm. Very controlled. Very much like a lawyer who had evidence. About what? He was already defensive. Already anticipating confrontation. I handed him the first set of papers without speaking. 47 emails printed out, highlighted with yellow marker, with dates and times clearly marked. I watched his face as he read them. I watched the color drain completely out of it. I watched him realize that he couldn't talk his way out of this, because the evidence was right there in his own handwriting. His own words. His own admissions. "Sarah, I can explain." "You can't," I said calmly. "These are your emails. These are dates. These are times. These are your words to her. There's nothing to explain." "Nicole." "Really?" "A paralegal who reports directly to you." He started stammering. "It wasn't. It's not like it looks." I cut him off. "Here's what I know. I know about the 23 hotel visits. I know about the $27,000 in spending. I know about the violations of your professional ethics code. I know about the conflict of interest you created by supervising someone you were having a relationship with. I know about the supervisory abuse. I know about the cases where both of you were listed as counsel while you were actively involved. I know all of it. And most importantly, I know that you chose to do all of this while I was working late at my own office, trusting you completely." His hand started shaking as he reached for the second set of papers. Hotel charges. Credit card statements. Calendar entries. Everything matched up perfectly. Everything was documented. Everything was damning beyond any reasonable doubt. "You shouldn't have looked at my emails," he said suddenly. Like that was the problem. Like I was the one who'd violated his privacy. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. "Your emails are work emails, Michael. They're on company servers. During discovery proceedings, they're fair game. And you know that. You know the law better than anyone. You know exactly how discovery works. You know what's discoverable and what's not. Which makes this worse, not better. You knew what you were risking." He tried to recover. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can." "I've already filed for divorce," I said quietly. "I've already retained counsel. And I've already filed a formal complaint with the State Bar Association." His face went white. Not pale. White. Like all the blood had drained out of his head and wasn't coming back. "You what?" "You violated Bar Association Rules 8.4 and 3.4. You created a documented conflict of interest by maintaining a romantic relationship with a supervisee. You used your position of supervisory authority to leverage and maintain that relationship. You compromised her professional judgment. That's not just cheating, Michael. That's professional misconduct on record." He stood up like he was going to leave. Sarah, please. I made a mistake. One mistake. 14 months of mistakes I corrected. $27,000 of mistakes. 47 emails of mistakes. All documented. All evidence. He tried to argue. He tried to minimize what he'd done. He tried to appeal to our history together, our college days, our wedding, our early years. He tried everything. Nothing worked because I wasn't emotional. I wasn't angry in a way that made me unstable. I was just factual. And the facts destroyed every argument he had. He left the house that night around 9 p.m. I haven't seen him since. What happened next was beautiful in its simplicity and inevitability. The State Bar Association launched a formal investigation within a week. They contacted his firm. They requested records. Michael was called in to meet with an ethics investigator. His firm's senior partner, Richard, was also brought in because the firm itself now had potential liability. I wasn't part of that meeting, but I was prepared to testify if needed. My documentation was so thorough that they didn't need to ask me anything. By the end of the second week, Michael's law license was suspended pending a formal disciplinary hearing. By the end of the third week, his firm had forced him to resign. They couldn't keep him on without appearing complicit in professional misconduct. They offered him a severance package of $25,000, contingent on signing an NDA and fully cooperating with the Bar Association investigation. By the end of the first month, he was unemployed. Nicole was also terminated. The firm couldn't keep her on without appearing to condone the relationship or the misconduct. Her legal career was essentially destroyed before it even really got started. Michael's established career ended almost overnight. The divorce was finalized quickly because I had all the documentation and he didn't have the resources to fight it effectively. His attorney tried to minimize the settlement terms, but every attempt failed because I had proof of infidelity, proof of financial waste, and proof of professional misconduct. I kept the house. I received about $175,000 from his retirement accounts and other assets. He was ordered to pay me $2,100 per month in spousal support for 7 years. It wasn't about the money, it was about principle and justice. He moved into a small one-bedroom apartment on the other side of the city. I heard through mutual friends that he tried to find legal work, but nobody would hire him. His reputation in the legal community was destroyed. Apparently, new lawyers he tried to network with would Google him, find the Bar Association information, and ghost him immediately. No law firm wanted that liability. No firm wanted to associate with someone with an active bar investigation. Good. It's been about a year now. I got promoted to counsel at my firm. The partners recognized that I'd handled an incredibly difficult personal and professional situation with complete integrity and professionalism. I didn't air it publicly. I didn't cry at the office. I didn't let it affect my work quality. I handled it like a lawyer handles everything, with documentation, strategy, and zero emotional impulse decisions. My salary is now $210,000 annually with a bonus potential of about $50,000. I was offered a partnership track, and I'm seriously considering it. I've been leading bigger, more important cases. I'm confident and strong in ways I genuinely never was before. There's something liberating about knowing you can handle the worst betrayal and come out not just okay, but thriving. My social life has rebuilt itself more than I expected. I went to brunch last weekend with 4 friends I hadn't seen in months. They'd actually taken my side during the separation, which meant more than I could express. I joined a book club. I started therapy, not because I needed to fix myself or process trauma in an unhealthy way, but because I wanted to process everything in a healthy, intentional way. My therapist told me after about 4 sessions that I'd handled this situation better than most people handle any major crisis. No regrets. No bitterness. Just strategic action and smart choices made from a place of clarity, not emotion. As for dating, I'm not in a rush. I went on a few coffee dates with someone I met through a mutual friend. It was nice, but casual. Nothing serious, nothing pressured. I'm not desperate to replace Michael with anyone. I'm genuinely enjoying being alone. I'm enjoying being independent. I'm enjoying being in complete control of my own life and my own decisions. Michael, meanwhile, is apparently living back with his parents. He couldn't afford to keep the apartment on his own. He couldn't find legal work. His name is essentially toxic in the legal community. The affair with Nicole ended almost immediately after he lost his job. Apparently, she blamed him entirely for the entire situation and refused all contact. His bar suspension is ongoing with no clear end date. His chances of ever practicing law again in this state are essentially zero. Do I regret any of it? Not even a little. Here's what I learned from all of this. You can control your reaction to betrayal. You can choose strategy over emotion. You can weaponize your own expertise against someone who completely underestimates you. And you can do it all while maintaining complete professional credibility and absolute zero guilt. Michael thought he was smarter than me. He thought he could juggle a marriage and an affair without consequences. He thought his legal expertise and his position would protect him. He thought wrong on every count. The scariest thing you can be to someone who underestimates you is exactly what they think you are until the moment you prove them completely right about what you're capable of doing. I did exactly what I was trained to do. I documented everything thoroughly. I followed the rules precisely. I reported the violations officially. I protected myself legally and financially. I didn't break any laws. I didn't do anything unethical. I just used the system exactly the way it was designed to be used. And it destroyed him. Some people call it petty. I call it thorough. Some people say I was too harsh. I say he was too stupid to think he could cheat on someone who understands litigation better than he understands basic loyalty and commitment. The truth is this. If you're going to betray someone, make absolutely sure they're not smart enough to destroy you for it. Because if they are, you deserve what's coming. And Michael definitely got what he deserved.